This is Greg, Dom and Councillor Tim Heenan. And Tim Heenan's been sleeping in a box for the last, how many days, Tim?
Since the 1st of October, so we've done 10 days.
10 days. And he's doing this to raise awareness about homelessness. And he's in the studio here to talk about his experiences as well as the facts that people, like a large percentage of the population, is homeless and in need of housing. So, Greg, do you have any questions?
Yeah, obviously homelessness covers a broad range of situations. You're pointing out the extremities by sleeping in a cardboard box in a park, but there's other levels. There's, as you said before, people in caravans, in backyards, people in lounge rooms, and a lot of young people do that. They couch hop and so on, just to be able to stay indoors somewhere for the night. But that wears out. So affordable housing, that's one of the big key issues for dealing with this.
It is, and look, the Shire of Yarra Rangers, Greg and Don, are not going to build accommodation for affordable housing. It's not what we do. It's certainly something that we need to consider the future of, because of course our population is changing drastically. In the next few years we will have a very extreme percentage of people who are at
retirement age,
and those people may not be able to afford ongoing accommodation if they've been in rental accommodation now. At the other end of the spectrum, young people that have come out of homeless situations, and they say that 1 in 4 people, and these statistics are only a couple of years old, 1 in 4 young people that have been in a homeless situation will end up becoming homeless themselves. The state planning provisions, together with the Yarra Rangers planning scheme, put a lot of barriers in place to be able to build that affordable accommodation. We need to look at areas where we have land, where there's available land in areas that can have that built, and have to have an environment where developers will want to come and sit down and talk to our strategic planners, and then have a much fuller conversation with councillors on where we can propose to build the social housing. The community is not always very amenable to having that, and there's many reasons for that, because it seems to be that the way we pigeonhole homeless people is that it might be an old dero living in a cardboard box. But as you've said, as Don said, as I've said in the last half an hour, there are many different ways that people are homeless in the Shire.
For sure. So it's not the council's role to provide the housing, but it is the council's role to facilitate that sort of housing to be built.
Correct. And I mean, eventually we'll need to get to the stage where we have a larger understanding through strategic statements about homelessness in our area, because like some of the other issues that we're dealing with, social issues, that one will encompass every one of them in the future.
The fascinating thing that I've been sort of following Greg's movements lately, and to some degree,
you're stalking me.
Yeah, I've been stalking you, Greg, and I really like the concepts of the sort of community development-ish projects that you're doing at the moment in relation to giving people that are homeless a camera and getting them to take photographs.
Yeah, that wasn't off my bat. That was a project by Anchor. Belinda Gillum, who works part-time there as a project officer, cranked up this project which was called Home Is, and they got a couple of dozen participants who were clients from Anchor, who were in emergency housing, accommodation, that sort of thing, so at risk of homelessness, into the project, and they were all given a camera each. And my role was to teach them how to use the camera, and then teach them aspects of good photography, which I enjoyed because I'm a photographer, and then I taught him how to break those rules. They went off with their cameras and came back with a huge range of images that we then sorted through, spoke to them about, recorded their thoughts on these things, and put together a range of the photos and spoken word stuff into an exhibition which is now open at the Regional Museum, which is the Lilydale Museum in Castella Street, called the Home Is exhibition. It's well worth seeing. It's free.
And it's also
www.anchor.au/home is. So the website's there. It's got all the images, all the wording, so you can see it from the comfort of your own chair.
Just on a more serious note, obviously, how can we break the cycle? There's a lot of statements we can make about homelessness, and tonight at the launch of that exhibition in Lilydale, we had a very eminent speaker from Social Justice Councillor in Melbourne. His name is Bernie Geary, OAM. He's been the Child Safety Commissioner for many years, and look, his bio stretches from here to Timbuktu, so I'm not going to go into it. But what he said was that we talk too much about homelessness. And when he said that, I think people took a deep breath. He said, we need to understand that what we're saying, what governments are saying is just, it's talk, but at a local level, we need to understand how important it is to know what we can do and where we can sort of help people in that respect. So in saying that, for some people, I'd like to say homelessness is an isolated event. It happens once, or maybe twice for a short time. For others, a small minority, homelessness is part of a chaotic and uncertain life of poverty and disadvantage. These people tend to cycle in and out of homelessness, and when they do, they find housing. It tends to be short term. And the federal government's made many statements in the last 3 years to be able to support that, though they've got to follow it through. They reckon they started off with $6 billion, but measures to go through the whole gamut of where to support youth, where to support people who are on fixed incomes. And they say that services targeting people sleeping rough in Australia are undeveloped. Assertive outreach programs are needed to get them into stable housing. I think what they're saying there is that you need to get them straight away. It's connecting with someone straight away. And the Shire of Yarra Rangers recently released a new local law preventing camping in some of the areas, but this was done in reference to obviously backpackers and other people moving through. It doesn't include homeless people. There are clear guidelines given to our officers that when they come across a homeless person, they don't remove their possessions. They make contact with them. They make contact with agencies who can make contact with them and follow it through. It's a different kettle of fish when it comes to young people because there are issues at home that they can't deal with, and when you're a minor and you're trying to put them into accommodation, it's enormously difficult without having the consent of adults. And I don't envy some of these people that work at Anchor and Anglicare and the other church agencies, because before they can even move off first base with young people, there's a lot of factors that they have to establish, and sometimes you don't always get the full information from young people.
Well, thank you very much, Tim. And all those who are internet connected, Tim's on Twitter now, and you can follow him. You can get on Twitter and go to @CouncillorTim, or one word, Councillor Tim. Follow him, support what he's doing, support the agencies. And if you know someone who's in that sort of need, often the best immediate answers some people can get needs met is from friends. So be a friend.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
That's a song, Tim.
Okay.
Okay, we're not going to play that one.
No, we're not. This is a bad case.
Tim, you're also going to, you just quickly, can I plug you for the Aboriginal
Healing Centre?
Yeah, Healing Centre.
Burundurran Healing Centre is now finally going to be set up in the Shire of Yarra Rangers, in between Lilydale and Mount Evelyn. I believe they'll start to build that fairly soon. There's a committee of management. It's a fairly focused business plan to be able to have this organisation meet the needs, and they're important needs of individuals within the Aboriginal community to bring families connected back together. Where there has been domestic violence. This is only one of 3 that are set up. There is one set up in Robinvale. There's one set up in Gippsland, far off. The state government allocated the monies for one to be set up in the greater area of Melbourne. We've got something like 2,500 Aboriginal people, and certainly the needs of some of the issues that they're facing with their own communities need to be met. So I'm enormously proud that I led the charge at Council to be able to make sure that application got through, and certainly I wish them well.
No problems.